You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone is having a nice day. It's a beautiful, kind of rainy Sunday afternoon. We've got a couple different stories for you today. First of all, some information on Carter Page talking about working for the clowns in America. Also, Mueller and the deep state covering up evidence in the General Flynn case, plus more evidence dumped from the Hillary email investigation proving her guilt. And finally, Attorney General Barr speaking about the inherent dangers of his job and what he's doing in taking down the deep state. So first of all, let's go ahead and take a listen to this clip from my friend and fellow researcher Methods. This is Mark Meadows commenting on the release of documents upcoming that we've been waiting for quite some time.
But prior to that first FISA application, Peter Strzok, Andy McCabe, and others at the FBI knew that Christopher Steele's dossier was not credible, and they did a rush to make sure that they could actually surveil him. That will come out because there's a cover-up that happened within certain realms at the FBI.
And that's going to come out sooner rather than later. We are facing a big week in terms of the revelation of some of this stuff. I know that the president has announced or said that he will declassify certain documents. He has given the authority to the AG, Bill Barr, to declassify. Some of those documents will be revealed this upcoming week, correct?
Well, as we start to look at some of these documents, Maria, Bill Barr, the Attorney General, has been dead set about making sure that transparency is there for all Americans to view. You know, we've had one narrative. The Democrats had their best day when Bob Mueller actually did his press conference as he was leaving the Department of Justice. I can tell you the more evidence that we see, the more that the American people can judge for themselves, they'll start to understand why this president has been so upset and why he's called it, you know, a hoax, because indeed, in many ways, it was. So we'll start to see some additional documents come out this week. Whether it's the declassified documents or not, I'm not sure. But I can tell you that I have looked at documents at the Department of Justice, as has Jim Jordan. And what we saw was a very clear indication of severe credibility issues as it relates to the dossier and Christopher Steele's credibility.
This is not a game. DECLAS is taking place right now, and the president will be vindicated. We'll be right back. All right, first for the day, Carter Page says he was a source for the clowns in America for decades before he became a subject of a federal investigation. I've said it on this program before, not only the FBI, but the clowns in America. Former Trump 2016 campaign advisor Carter Page sat down for an exclusive interview on Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo. Carter Page says he was a source for many U.S. government agencies, including the clowns, the FBI, and the State Department, before they spun it around on him and made him the subject of a surveillance and a federal investigation. Yet another Mueller report omission. Carter Page also said he was helping the government for free. He was a patriot. Look at that. Oh, by the way, doing it for free, Carter Page said, slamming the FBI for making 11 payments to dossier author Christopher Steele during the 2016 election. I was asked various questions, not only by Steele, FBI, etc., but also the clowns, Carter Page said. I had a long-standing relationship with the clowns, going back decades essentially, and I was always very transparent and open. Unfortunately, it was completely spun that, as you're correctly alluding to in this fake Mueller report, they just referenced this as, oh, he's, colluding, if you will, with these Russian intelligence officers, he said. I mean, I'm acting as a source, completely helping our government. And the Mueller report conveniently left this important piece of information out. Just vanished it. The FBI obtained 4 FISA warrants on Carter Page, even though he was a source for the FBI and the clowns for decades. According to the FISA docs, the FBI made it sound like Carter Page was a traitor who was working on behalf of the Russian government, when in fact he was working as a source for his own government, the U.S. government. The first FISA warrant on Page was granted in October of 2016, and the fourth and final FISA warrant on Page, which was signed by Rod Rosenstein and Andrew McCabe, was granted in June of 2016. The FBI used the FISA court to spy on Page for nearly a year, yet he was never even charged with a crime. What evidence on Carter Page was the FBI presenting to the FISA judges? I think that is a very fair question, and I want to know myself. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this clip from Carter Page. This man deserves to be outraged.
Dealings with certain people, and you had worked with the FBI and the dealings with certain people, and you had worked with the FBI and the State Department before. You were actually reporting back to them about information about people. And then the way it was spun was Carter Page, Trump campaign advisor, is dealing with Russian agent Kilimnik or Russian agent whomever. So tell me what happened.
Well, look, I think there is just completely false stories where, as you're correctly alluding to, I was asked various questions, not only by, state FBI, et cetera, but also CIA. I had a long-standing relationship with the CIA going back decades, essentially. And, I was always very transparent, open, and unfortunately, it was completely spun that, as you're correctly alluding to in this fake Mueller report, they just refer to this as, oh, he's, colluding, if you will, with these Russian intelligence officers. I'm acting as a source, right? Completely helping our government. And actually, oh, by the way, doing it for free, as opposed to these DNC consultants who are getting paid by the DNC, getting paid by Russian oligarchs, but also getting, 11 payments, as Judicial Watch has uncovered, in the year 2016, which is just so unethical.
So when you spoke with Mr. Kilimnik, for example, or when you spoke with Mr. Halper, for example, were you under the impression that you were getting information for the State Department and the CIA and the FBI at that time? Were you had no idea that you were actually being surveilled?
Yeah, absolutely. To the best of my recollection, I don't think I ever crossed paths with Mr. Kilimnik, but I know I had a long-standing relationship with Professor Halper, and we'll see. Again, I always believe in innocent till proven guilty, but this was my conversations with him intensified right the month before my illegitimate FISA warrant in September 2016, when all these defamatory articles are being placed by the DNC. And, essentially all of my relationships with people in the Trump campaign and then Trump transition team and then early into the first months of the administration were all essentially underground. It was always sort of behind the scenes. And Professor Halper was being very positive, and he was like sort of a Harriet Tubman figure of he understands sort of the injustices of he presented himself as understanding that, and I sort of trusted him, and if this is true, again, it's sad about the FBI because they haven't admitted anything yet. I mean, there are these ridiculous statements that there's no spying, et cetera. But, we'll have to wait and see.
So let me get this straight. You're working with the CIA for decades, and you are reporting information back to the CIA for decades. Mm-hmm. And suddenly somebody puts your name in a Yahoo News article that you are a Trump campaign figure, perhaps colluding with these Russian individuals who you were actually getting information for the CIA.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what happened.
Yes, that, and and it's part of, there's a lot of misrepresentations in all of this.
Hold that thought. We want to talk about this when we come right back. Stay with us. More with Carter Page next.
To think, Carter Page, an American patriot, working in tandem with his government to keep his country safe, passing along information from his dealings with business and personal interactions, doing it for free. Meanwhile, we have a scab like Christopher Steele creating fiction out of whole cloth and creating absolute junk that he gets paid for by our own FBI, a spy from a foreign nation, an ally, quote unquote, albeit, but still, Carter Page is an American citizen, passing along information for free to a variety of government agencies. And what did they do? They destroyed him, or they tried to at best, and they tried to use him to destroy our president. This is absolutely disgusting. And the best we can hope for is that these people see a trap door on the bottom of a wooden floor. Now next, the Mueller gang and the deep state are suspected of covering up an FBI Flynn-related 302 pertinent to the general's case. We know that they've been covering up evidence, and it turns out they've been doing it even more than we knew before. General Michael Flynn was an American hero who was set up by the former president's deep state before he joined forces with the Trump campaign. It now looks like the Mueller gang is holding back on providing a Form 302 dated the day before the Trump 2017 inauguration that took place under the former president's watch. Now, the judge overseeing the General Flynn case, Judge Emmett Sullivan, had already requested that the Mueller team provide all information related to the General Flynn case that the defendant is legally required to be provided. Now, the first line of the judge's order stated that pursuant to Brady and its progeny, the government has a continuing obligation to provide all evidence required by the law and the federal rules of criminal procedure. Mueller's team was required to provide all this information to General Flynn in a timely manner, but now it appears that they never provided it. For example, Mueller ignored the court order by not providing the transcript of General Flynn's call with the Russian ambassador Kislyak, which was the main reason that Flynn was questioned in the White House within a week of the inauguration. Now, this questioning by corrupt FBI agent Peter Strzok led to Flynn's firing from the incoming Trump administration and to his indictment by the Mueller gang. Now, here we have a tweet from Technofog, and he says, based on the DOJ ignoring the court order to file the Russian ambassador call transcript, I'm assuming they didn't provide it to Flynn's team. That could also be a violation of the court's discovery order. Mueller and his pit bull, Andrew Weissman, have a history of withholding Brady material in their own cases. Former U.S. Attorney Sidney Powell was on the Mark Levin show, and she discussed the criminal actions these two took in their actions with Enron, Arthur Anderson, and Merrill Lynch in the 2000s. Bogus. Mueller and his team have also edited the information in their bogus 400-page report that was recently released. This was addressed late in the week when President Trump's attorney's call to Flynn was released, and this report showed that Mueller edited out key parts in their report that were beneficial to the president and General Flynn. The way they edited it tried to make it look like the president's team was trying to get information from Flynn's team to determine if they were being investigated and prosecuted by the federal government. It was illegal if they tried to do it that way. That would have been obstruction right there. Now, right here, this was a tweet that we had shown previously. It's a statement from Trump's lawyer, John Dowd, and he said it's unfair and despicable. It was a friendly, privileged call between counsel with no conflict. I think Flynn got screwed, and that is something that I can certainly agree with. Now, there are more suspicions of dirty deeds by the Mueller gang and the deep state. Note that this information was provided to me months ago by some internet sleuths, but I didn't see the connections until Technofog released the tweets below. Technofog notes that there is an FBI 302 that predates the 302 related to the January 24th, 2017 interview in the White House between incoming Trump NSD General Flynn and those corrupt FBI agents. This unearthed 302 is dated January 19th, 2017, just before the Trump inauguration, and it's unknown who did the interview related to this 302. Let's go ahead and take a look at these tweets from Technofog. Says the footnotes cite to the following excerpts related to discussions with Russian Ambassador Kislyak, McFarland, and Bannon. Trump was, of course, inaugurated on the 20th. This 302 is dated on the 19th. So who did the interview? Outgoing administration? Must have been. Intelligence? Certainly. Doesn't appear to be the FBI. Now, on January 19th, it's an extremely important date because Yates and Comey were trying to figure out how to proceed with the CI investigation of the incoming Trump administration. The counterintelligence investigation against Flynn had already begun, and it was termed that investigation in the special counsel's report. Also, perhaps putting things into context is this cryptic reference about Flynn in Comey's sealed memos. They contain a statement about information known to the FBI concerning Lieutenant General Flynn as of a particular date. So they had been looking into Flynn for a very long time prior to the 302 on the 24th that they are pointing to, saying that this is everything that they had on him. Now, the timing of this 302 is very suspect as it lands on the last days of the former president's administration. Technofog also addresses suspicions that the date is an error, but this really doesn't make sense either. Back in December, I was sent emails regarding the same matter from an internet sleuth and summarized as follows. Every investigation in the FBI must begin with a paragraph 1. You have to have an originating complaint. That's the 302 for every action. So it was if there was a resolution of a complaint, then there was an originating complaint. Mueller is refusing to supply the earlier 302, now assumed to be the one dated January 17th, 2017. I'm sorry, I believe that's supposed to be January 19th, by claiming that 302 had nothing to do with the Flynn lying matter, that the lies centered around the January 24th lying event only in the White House, with the interviewing agents apparently said he did not lie. Remember, they said they did not feel that he lied in that investigation, but that's what he was charged with, lying in that interview right there. What the heck is going on? Americans demand to see all the information related to General Flynn and how he was set up by the former presidential administration, including the Mueller gang, Weissman, and Peter Strzok. Mueller and Weissman should be interrogated, indicted, sentenced, and thrown in jail for multiple crimes. We demand the truth. It's long overdue. This is another fine example of an American citizen, a patriot, someone who has lived their life by serving their country, and the government of the former administration completely tried to swerve them into a concrete wall. They did everything they could to entrap them and to use them for their own ends. What did they want to do? They wanted to take down President Trump. They wanted to stop him before he was even able to get going. This is disgusting. This is the example of what happens when you have people like this in government, and what happens when the power gets pushed into the hands of the wrong people. Now, next, the FBI has dumped more HRC-related emails, and this provides even more evidence that we need to lock her up. The FBI released more Hillary-related emails over the weekend, and a review of these emails provides more damning information that the FBI's investigation into Hillary was always a sham, as she committed numerous criminal acts and should definitely be locked up. President Trump provided the best line in U.S. history for a presidential debate when he said that if he was in charge, she would be in jail. Now, you know, we have to listen to this.
After getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails, and then you acid wash them, or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it, because you know what? People have been... their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done, and it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about email.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised.
Really?
In the first debate,
and the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So, once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking. So I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Boom. That's right, Hillary Clinton. You'll be in jail, and your day of reckoning is coming. This past weekend, more FBI emails were finally released that show indeed Hillary was involved in numerous crimes in regards to the abuse of her classified emails, and yet she was let off by the corrupt FBI. Let's take a look at this tweet thread from Jordan Schachtel. New docs from FBI Vault. FBI concludes HRC was in violation of basic server security with her homebrew server. It discusses the possibility that all of her emails were stolen. Review found HRC stripped classification of highest level possible. Incredible. This part is insane. Sidney Blumenthal attempted to leverage his relationship with Hillary to get her to hand over a classified file that contained a roadmap to a $30 billion fortune. That's right. We just talked about this last night on the program. This was from the thread that my friend and fellow researcher, The Sharp Edge, put together, talking about the Libyan gold and what happened to it. Well, right here it says, separately, we assess that Mr. Blumenthal's true motive for being so aggressive in providing information to Mrs. Clinton regarding Benghazi and Libya was to bait her into releasing the State Department intelligence file, a classified record at the secret level at a minimum, because it came from foreign in-country diplomatic or official sources that contain a roadmap of how the State Department seized the Gaddafi family assets that had been plundered from the country. The $30 billion was only a portion of what the coalition government suspect was taken from the Libyan people. We understand that Mr. Blumenthal presented a proposal to the coalition government that included a team of experts in money laundering and reparation of absconded assets, but it was wholly dependent upon his ability to obtain quality digital data from disparate sources to fuel the tracing and tracking software. We believe that Mr. Blumenthal team members made clear that he would need A, the complete financial database image files of the Libyan central bank during the Gaddafi years, the complete State Department intelligence file containing all information on how they identified, located, and then seized the Gaddafi money, the complete Gaddafi SINFIN file to which which the State Department would have access, and finally, identification of the corporate vehicles created by the Gaddafi family to exfiltrate the funds. Sid Blumenthal was a dirty, dirty man. Now, more sensitive targeting data from Hillary Clinton's server somehow made its way onto the dark web. Wow. The FBI described one Excel spreadsheet with classified markers that may have been removed yet again as a potential smoking gun document. Another blistering rebuke of Sid Blumenthal. FBI says he was motivated to score a contract with his private intel group. They don't buy his memos as legit intelligence. Remember, Hillary was one of the primary instigators for the overthrow of Gaddafi. And the FBI says a redacted name who has a controversial history with the U.S. intelligence community was working with Blumenthal and a team of former IC operatives to attempt to cash in on these plundered assets in Libya. Any ideas who that might be? I don't know at this time. It's very likely that this redacted person is Cody Shearer. I don't know why he's redacted, though. Remember, Shearer worked the same network on the Trump-Russia dossier. Wow. Very, very crazy. Hillary used Sid and Cody to develop the Trump-Russia dossier. This included identical intel to First dossier, which was crafted by Christopher Steele, who, by the way, is connected to Sid and Cody through Jonathan Weiner, former U.S. Libya envoy. Massive scandal, direct links to the Russia hoax. Here's an update. Some of the aforementioned docs appear to be conclusions not directly from the FBI, but from Judicial Watch, which pulled into the info from the FBI data. It looks like Judicial Watch had privileged access to unreleased info for research, and Tom Fitton can probably offer more clarity on how the docs came to light. One of her goons, Sidney Blumenthal, sent her an email requesting information into a $30 billion fortune. In addition, it looks like her emails made it into the dark web, and there is one email with a spreadsheet that is a smoking gun document. Blumenthal, Hillary's goon, was pushing garbage and calling it intelligence that the FBI was just not buying. Maybe this is why they decided to find the likes of Christopher Steele to push their garbage related to Trump and Russia. Of course, if this was the case and the FBI knew it and pushed this garbage on Trump, the FBI would be guilty of numerous crimes. Jordan Schachtel thinks the redacted party in this email is Cody Shearer, a Hillary goon around for ages for pushing lies related to her opponents. If so, this would be very unprofessional and deceiving, if not criminal, for Christopher Wray's FBI to cover this up. And then Judicial Watch is related to the emails. The reason Judicial Watch is related is because Judicial Watch provided this information to Peter Strzok at the FBI a few weeks before Hillary was exonerated by the FBI, and they still let her go. Of course, Strzok is perhaps the most corrupt FBI agent in history. The more that comes out on Hillary Clinton, guys, the worse it gets. It was not out of line to call for her to be locked up. She was guilty as heck for many crimes. This is as true now as it was then, and more sunlight just confirms it. Seems like every day we have a new criminal act that is released about Hillary Clinton. This is just insane to me that she is still walking the streets. I firmly believe that Hillary Clinton will see the inside of a jail cell, but the longer that it takes, the more flabbergasted I am. The only thing that I can think is that they are working on creating the absolute perfect case. We know that right now, Durham, Huber, the DOJ, AG Barr, they are all working on this very thing. So my faith is fully in them. I have allowed this to be released. I have surrendered it to God. He is the only one who was going to make sure that Hillary Clinton gets put in jail with the help of his men on the ground, Huber, Durham, and Barr. And finally, Attorney General Barr hints at his dangerous position as AG, overseeing the deep state FBI at this point in history. Wow. U.S. Attorney General Barr spoke at a ceremony at the FBI Academy, and he hinted at the dangerous situation he's in as Attorney General at this time in history. Barr started his presentation by stating,
as Chris said, and as most of you know, I'm a two-time offender. This is my second stint as Attorney General. My arrival this time was a little bit more eventful than I recall it being the last time. As we've been watching the coverage of June 6, 1944 D-Day, I had the thought that my arrival this time felt a little bit, I think, like jumping into Sainte-Mère-Église on the morning of June 5th, trying to figure out where you could land without getting shot.
Bill Barr is so good at deadpan humor, but his next comments about the reality of getting SHOT received no reaction from the crowd, maybe because they'd been thinking about it. Now, Americans want justice. We are all hungry and thirsty to see this thing play out and see the people who have been acting against our best interests and acting against the administration of President Trump to be put in jail. We've seen too many deep state crimes committed under the former administration and administrations before that. We've watched a gang of criminals led by the former president and Hillary Clinton attempt to prevent candidate Trump from winning the 2016 election, and then they worked tirelessly to remove him from office. It's not out of line to want to see these people locked up. It's demanding that criminals be arrested and put behind bars. It is demanding justice, and that is what this show is all about. And I think that's why you guys watch, because you understand my passion for this very subject. My entire life, I have been watching these corrupt politicians destroy this country, and I knew it. From the smallest age, I knew that what they were doing was not right. And now we finally have an opportunity to see things turned around and to see justice done here in our country. For the first time in our lives, we have the opportunity to see these people pay for what they've been doing this entire time. This is not just a plan that started back in 2016 or 2015 or 2014. I would hazard a guess and say that we are looking at the culmination of decades of planning by the White Hats and the Alliance. It was impossible for them to do this when we had the former administrations. We had several presidential administrations of just straight up criminals, people that were controlled by the deep state, controlled by the cabal, and now Finally, we are in a position for these things to play out in a way that will be fair and just and right for America. So the next time you tell yourself that it's not happening fast enough, that we aren't seeing enough movement, remember, this plan to destroy these people and bring them to justice has been taking place at a minimum for decades, and they have been in power for hundreds, if not thousands of years, controlling every level of politics, society, power in business, power in banking, you name it. So the fact that we have seen as much movement as we have in such a short amount of time, to me, is a miracle, and it is proof that God is working here for us right now. All right, guys, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder. I'm sure that you've seen the Red Pill 78 merch launch, little card I have there in the upper right-hand corner. Currently, I have a community guidelines strike on YouTube, so I'm unable to integrate the store with my YouTube channel as I had previously anticipated. So I just wanted to let everyone know that you can go ahead and go to teespring.com/stores/redpill78, and right there you will see a large grouping of products. We've got t-shirts, we've got long sleeve crew neck shirts, we've got hoodies, there are phone cases, there are bags, there are tank tops, there are stickers, there is all kinds of cool stuff that you guys have been asking me for a while now. My good friend and my designer, Brady, she has put this store together for you guys, and I'm asking everyone to go ahead and take a look, and if you see something that you like, then you're more than welcome to pick it up. Something like this might become a great necessity for me because I may or may not be able to continue doing this on YouTube, may have to end up doing it someplace else. So if you were to purchase a t-shirt or any of these products, you would be directly supporting me and the channel. So I just want to thank everyone who has purchased already, anybody who's shared the store, anybody who has posted about it on social media. There's a lot of really cool things, and make sure that you look at each individual design because they will say something on the front as well as the back. All right, guys, I think that's all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.